Hi boys and girls, hope you're all keeping well and staying safe. I miss seeing everybody in school every morning and listening to all your lovely stories, but I can't wait to hear them all when we get back to school, hopefully really soon. And I'm sure you loved listening to Miss Crow and Miss Kelly's lovely stories that they put on YouTube for us last week. I know my two little boys loved listening to them, and in St. Lawrence O'Toole's, we love listening to stories and we love reading stories. And we love telling stories. We're all chatterboxes and we love telling each other stories every day. But sometimes when it comes to writing stories, we don't always want to write stories. And that's something I've been finding very hard with my little boy at home. He doesn't really want to write his stories, but I was telling him that his teacher would love to see all of his lovely stories when he goes back to school. She'd love to see them all. And I was going to show you an example of a story I did with my little boy last week. And I'm just going to show you now, because you don't need lots of things to do a nice story. So what we just used 2 pages, 1 practice page, and 1 page that Tommy wrote a story on. And we just used 2 pencils and an extra piece of paper. I'll tell you what that was for now in a second. So his story was, I am having a movie later. And for all the mummies and daddies that are looking for things to do with their kids while they're off, this is just a little idea that you could do with them to get them to write a little story while they're off school. And if they did something like this every day, they'd have lots of stories to show their teachers when they go back. So I suppose the main things I was working on with Tommy last week was that he was starting over here on the left and that he was leaving little spaces between his words. And then I was really surprised when we got to some words because they were tricky enough. He's in junior infants. So what I got him to do when he got to the word having, we said it really slowly to hear all the sounds in the word. And when we got to the word later, we did the same. So we said it nice and slowly. And I just did little boxes for all the sounds in the words. And if he was finding some of the sounds tricky to hear, I just popped them in for him as well. And then the word movie was really hard to hear all the sounds in that word, so I helped him write that word. And then when we got to the word having, the hut was a little bit hard for him to write, so we used the practice page to write it as many times as we could, just to practice writing it the right way. Start at the top, down, back up to the middle and over. So we practiced that a few times. And we practiced the letter A. And then when we got to the end of the story, he put in his full stop. And when he was finished the story, he just drew a lovely picture then to go with the story. So I think that's all of the sweets he was going to have for his movie. And then what I did was, I just wrote a story out on a piece of paper there. I am having a movie later. And for all the little boys and girls that come to my room, we do this every day. We write our story out on a piece of paper and then Ms McCourt cuts it up. So I cut up all the words that come from the story and I jumbled them all up like that. And then they have to put it all back together again. So I am having a movie later, and then the full stop. And if you get it wrong, that's okay, because you can just try to do it again. So it's a really simple way to just get the kids writing little stories using your practice page and your writing page, and then just a little piece of paper to jumble up your story when you're finished and put it back together again. And that way you're not only after writing a story, you're actually reading your story back. And when you're giving your mum or dad your story, just say it a few times so you can keep your story in your head. And then that way when you're writing it, you can remember what word comes next. So I know I'm looking forward to hearing all your lovely stories when we go back to school after all of this is over. I'm sure everybody has lots of stories to tell each other. And for the older boys and girls, they could even keep all their lovely stories in a diary. And you'll be able to read them to your teacher when you go back to school, just like Tommy is doing for his teacher in his school. And I can't wait to hear all the stories very soon. Talk soon, boys and girls. Enjoy your Easter holidays.